Hi and welcome back to my channel. Today we're not outdoors, but indoors at my friend Jonathan and his wife. They have a small homestead they've been developing a couple of years, and as part of that you tend to collect tools of all kinds. Among other things, he has a small collection of axes, and he doesn't really know that much about them, what they are for and what he can use them for, and how to set them up and make them work properly. Some of them are a bit old and rusty. So I'm gonna try and help him figure that out today. Let's take a look at this small one first, shall we?
Yeah.
Where did you get that?
This is a gift from a good friend for me and my wife's wedding. And he thought he bought a bigger one because of online pictures.
Okay,
and,
that explains it.
Yeah, but we also got a very big knife. So, yeah.
So the knife was bigger than he thought and the axe was smaller.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mainly use this one for fire starting woods.
Small kindling or...
Yeah, exactly.
Let's remove the mask and have a look at it.
Yep.
As you can see, it's a small hatchet from Gränsfors Bruk. This is a strange axe to me. I mean, it's so small that it would only be suitable for small kids, and small kids aren't really fit to use sharp-edged tools anyway, so I'd probably just look at this as a novelty axe or some sort of souvenir gift. To me, this is too small to do any real work with. Of course, you can make small kindling, as you said, by your fireplace inside, really small stuff. But even doing that, it would be better to have a slightly larger one that you can actually split small fire logs with as well. I think Gränsfors makes some strange axes from time to time. This is one of them. It serves no real life purpose as I see it, but it's a cool little gift to give somebody. I didn't know that's the fact actually, that he thought it was bigger just looking at the web page.
Yeah, you should see the knife. It's a full
yeah,
tang.
I would like to do that
now. You can use that for firewood.
Not the first-hand choice for anybody for any sort of purpose, I think, but a nice little gift.
Yeah.
Let's put it away and see if we can find something that's more suitable for work.
Yeah, this one is another gift because people like giving me stuff, and yeah, I thought that this is a regular hatchet that anybody has at home, I guess.
The proportions of it is strange, I think. Very small head on a pretty long and thick handle. Modern handles are always too thick. I can talk a bit more about that later, perhaps. Well, this is nothing precious. This is probably from a budget store. I'm not even sure this is the original handle for it. If it is, the company that made it knows way too little about AXES. But I guess you can have it for a little bit of this, little bit of that. It is a little bit better to have by the fireplace, making kindling and splitting fire logs perhaps, but even for that I would prefer a slightly larger head with a longer edge. Yeah, it's easier to hit what you aim for with a slightly longer edge. It's safer to have that for splitting kindling. Let's go on to the third one. Slightly larger still. What do you know about this one?
This I got from my granddad when he passed, and I don't know anything about it more than that. I have not really taken care of it or used it in any way. It's still sharp-ish from him, and it became a little bit more rusty where I put it, but yeah, other than that I have no idea really.
I have a few more ideas about it on that. For starters, this axe head is from a better maker. It has the typical EX stamp here that Hultsbruk put on some of their axes, where they used extra good quality steel for the edge. The handle is probably not original. The color isn't for sure. It has no palm swell down here, so for swinging with any force it's not as safe as you would prefer it to be. The handle length for the size of the head is more appropriate than the one we looked at before. And this has just a little bit of surface rust really. There's no problem at all getting rid of that. And taking a file and a sharpening stone to it and make it work properly again. So this is something we actually can make a usable tool out of with not a great deal of effort. Of course, some people like to think they fix AXES when the head becomes loose in strange ways, and this is an example of that. Somebody has just filled the eye with nails. This is a perfect example of how not to fix your axe. At some point you should try and remove all those and get a new wedge down here. But it's not really necessary to do it today because it is solid as it is now. So you can leave it as a testament of how to do things the wrong way, or you can fix it later if you want. If it was mine, I'd probably replace the handle entirely and get something with the palms well. Let's put it away for now. What do we have next?
Next is the biggest one. This is a bigger hatchet that I got from when I bought a military tent. So this is an old Swedish Cold War era thing. Everybody who was dressed in green in the forest once upon a time has one of those. I have used it to chop down a tree or two. I think it's good. It has a nice swing. It's a big axe.
This is what is referred to in the English language as a boy's axe. I think it's a typical American term. It's about a 26-inch handle perhaps. I guess the head weight is like 1.2 kilos or something. That's like 2.6 pounds. It's very similar in weight and length as some axes I use. And if you're only going to have one axe to do most tasks, this is the type of axe you would like to have. Typical military axe, as you so rightly pointed out. And it's also made by Hultsbruk. It's stamped here with the Hultsbruk logo and also the 3 crowns, which is the Swedish military sign. A little bit of damage down here, because some people just don't know how to chop firewood. They chop in front of the fire log and they hit it here. Not a big damage, you don't have to worry about it now, but if it was you who did it, improve your aim before you continue doing it. This stuff up here in the eye is some sort of epoxy or something, I think. That's just a cheap production method to churn out a lot of axes quickly. You could remove it, try to get the handle properly into the eye and get the wedge in there instead. But if it's not coming off, then you can use it as it is for now.
Yeah. How about the sharpness of it for chopping trees and stuff?
What sharpness?
Yeah, exactly. What should
you can definitely fell smaller trees with axes like this. You can probably do it with a dull axe like this if it's a softwood, or if you have a lot of time and patience.
A lot of anger.
Yeah. But with a file and a sharpening stone, you'll easily turn this into a sharp tool as well. And since it's a Hultsbruk, it's worth taking care of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, boy's axe. The most general purpose axe there is, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Now for the last one, that's something a little bit special.
Yeah, this one is a weird one. Another thing I got from my granddad. I know nothing about it. I let you talk about it.
Good, because I know a thing or two about it. This is not something you chop firewood with. This is a specialized carpentry axe. This is a little bit of a holy grail for Swedish or Scandinavian axe collectors. Perhaps people overseas as well have heard about this. It's a Hjärtum axe forge in the village of Hjärtum. It was only active during 3 generations of blacksmiths. The first one went to Norway to learn how to forge axes like this. That's why it's shaped the way it is. It's typically Norwegian design, really. This one is made by the second blacksmith. I think his production is the most vast of the 3. And it's in pretty good shape. I mean, it's not badly damaged at the pole. And the edge line is pretty nice. Was it your grandfather's axe, this?
Yep.
Was he a carpenter or something? Or?
He worked a lot in wood, so yeah, I guess he had been using it.
Yeah, and he hasn't abused it. It's in pretty good shape. I guess the edge bevel's around 30 degrees, flat grind, that's more or less what you want for a carpentry axe. And the handle is original, in good shape. You don't have to do much to get this up to shape. but it's not meant to chop firewood with.
No.
It's meant for carpentry work. So it's a good collectible and a little bit valuable axe, actually.
Yeah.
I've had a few. I have one now that I use a lot. So we're not gonna show how to use this for homesteading purposes, but it's a really cool and a really good carpentry axe that I was a bit surprised to see a person that's not really an axe person like you having in the shed.
Yeah.
But because of what your grandfather did, that explains how you got it. So should we choose one of them to tune up a little bit and do some homesteading type of work with?
Yeah, let's go with the green one.
The green one. Yeah.
It's the best quality thing that we actually can work with.
Yeah, we can sharpen up and try and cut some stove wood with it, because that's a typical thing that you can do when you have a lot of pruning and a lot of small trees you have to get rid of at the homestead.
Yeah.
And there's quite a lot of useful fuel that can be harvested from that if you have a fireplace. So let's take it outside and see if we can put it back to shape.
Good.
With this nice bright green handle and everything. You won't lose it if you drop it outside. That's the worst thing with these military things. If you put it away when you're out camping or out in the woods, it's a good chance that you won't find it again. I wonder how many of those that are just still out in nature because of that.
Probably quite a few.
This one you will see. Right, let's go outside then.
Yep.
Break some tools out. Now we're gonna try and put this axe into a reasonably good working order again. I'm not gonna do anything with the rust because it's a simple working tool anyway. You can do a little bit with a steel brush or put some oil on it later perhaps, but we're just gonna focus on the edge bevel and then put a sharp edge on it. I didn't bring any bevel gauge unfortunately, so we can't really check the bevel, but just looking at it I can see that it's not straight. It's more bevel on one side than the other, and that's a typical thing you see especially on old axes, that the edge bevel is too big. And that's a common misconception when they talk about edge bevels, because a lot of people think that an axe for splitting firewood shouldn't be sharp. That's not the case. What it needs to be is it needs to have a wider, bigger edge bevel like that, compared to an axe that you use for chopping that has a smaller, sharper bevel. But they both need to be sharp to do their job. It's the edge bevel that is a bit different. I'm gonna take a file to it and create a reasonably usable bevel, and then we're gonna sharpen it and try it out to cut some stove wood with it.
Yep.
Usually when I'm doing this type of work at home in my workshop, I have a nice workbench to fasten the axe to. But here we are using one of these foldable work trestles. And I thought that might be something most people have at home, or something similar. Not everybody has a solid workbench. Just to show the concept, you don't really need a workbench to do this. That's just something stable enough to fasten the axe to when you're doing the filing. Then I have my tote with a few tools. You can take a look at them as well. First, I have a couple of quick clamps to hold the axe. Some files, flat files. This one is single cut. I think that actually works better for filing axes than double cut files. The larger you can get them, the better it is, usually. Didn't bother to put any handles on them. And I have a couple of smaller ones, smaller but more expensive because it's a posh brand. It's a bastard cut and a fine cut. Those are double cut. I would prefer to have them in single cut as well, but couldn't find it when I bought them.
And these are better than the ones you find cheap.
Yeah, there is a definite quality difference if you buy cheap files in a hardware store or if you buy a good brand. If you buy a cheap file, maybe you can file one axe and then you have to throw it away and get a new one.
Yeah. But these you can use forever, or?
No, not forever, but for quite a lot longer than a cheap file at least.
Yeah.
And then you have one of these brushes, then they last longer. So after the filing, I have a sharpening stone. This is a diamond sharpening stone. It's mostly made to be used for kitchen knives, I think. I bought it cheap on eBay. 1000 grit, 400 grit. A little bit on the larger side, which was one of the reasons I chose it. That's pretty good. And a spray bottle with some water for that. That's about what you need, but if you want to go one step further, you can also use a strop when you are done sharpening the edge. And that's used to polish the edge to a razor sharp finish. So you can shoot those nice scenes where you shave some hair off your forearm, you know, important stuff. That's what we need.
Super.
Let's get going.
Yep. This is mostly feeling how it should be done, or is there anything technical about what you're doing now?
There is some principles you can use to get a reasonably nice bevel for a general purpose axe that you mostly use for chopping. You just lay the file onto the edge and the eye and you lift a little bit. There's also a technique where you fold a towel and place over the eye, put the palm of your hand on top of that, and you draw a file back and forth over the edge. But I usually do it a little bit more freehand. I lift up, try to maintain the same angle, and I just keep filing until I'm happy. You can do this with a belt grinder, of course, if you have one, but then you have to be careful so you don't heat the edge and destroy the hardening. But now we are using files. That's the more frugal method. Try maintaining the same lift above the eye and do as long, even strokes as you can.
It's a bit hard on the edges to keep it flat as it wants to roll over.
Yeah, you just have to be aware of it. You get the hang of it after a while.
Yeah. Should we remove it and take a look?
I just think we can flip it to the other side.
Yeah.
That's okay, I think, for the first side. I think we can swap to a fine cut file now.
This one?
Thanks. I'm going to put a slight micro bevel on it, so I'll raise the file even further and do some strokes. That makes a more durable edge. Now we are finished with the filing, and I did a little bit of a micro bevel with the file, although you can save that until you come with a sharpening stone. Starting with the 400, the coarse side. A bit of water on that, then you just go.
And it's the same with the angle as with the file?
Yeah, this is just polishing the bevel we filed. I'm doing the main bevel first and saving the micro bevel for later. Flipping it around. I usually don't fasten the axe to the bench when I do this. I find it easier to just hold it like this and flip it from side to side quickly. And after a while you flip it to the fine grit side. Then I finish with the micro bevel. I just lift a bit more. I don't have any exact angle for this. And I don't do very much. Just a little bit to make a more durable edge, so it doesn't roll or fold if you hit something hard. An axe edge usually don't break like on a knife, because it's not hardened to the same degree as a knife. Finished with the grinding stone. I'm wiping off all the junk and gunk from the axe, and then it's time to strop it. And this is final polishing. And you do it on the main bevel first, so that's nice and polished, so it doesn't create any unnecessary friction when you cut into wood. And after that you also do the micro bevel.
But it does actually help with the sharpness as well.
It does, even though it's not strictly necessary for all types of jobs. But it's nice to show that you can do this. And every time you sharpen the axe, it's a good thing if you do the main bevel, not just the micro bevel, so you don't get that friction when you cut into wood. Then it's a more efficient tool in the end. So now it's finished. Well, as far as the cutting edge goes anyway. We decided not to do anything about the rest of it. Nothing with the surface rust, nothing with the handle, nothing with the nails, instead of a proper wedge. But now we can work with it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's chop some stove wood. I see you already cut some stove wood here.
Yeah.
With a saw.
Yeah.
Of some sort. Could be a nice comparison to try and do it with an axe and see what you think of that.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the chopping block you have?
This is the one I use.
Yeah. That's a bit high for this kind of work.
Yeah.
Grab one of these. You want to be down a little bit. Rest it on a convenient height so you can use the weight and the travel of the axe in a better way, and not working too hard with your shoulders as you have to do. If you're up here you have to lift more, and also the arm you're grabbing the branch with, you're putting more stress on your left shoulder there as well. And you don't get enough force out of the axe chopping so high, so we need to alter the position. I don't think we will cut this off now.
No, we will raise the ground a little bit.
Yeah, we'll find something to stand on instead. This is a slightly better working height. What you do is that you rest your branch on the edge of the chopping block, and you cut down inside of the edge is best, because you get more use of your power in your chop there than if you cut outside. It helps if you make a little groove on the edge of the block, so you can rest the branches more securely.
Yep.
I think I started that groove here accidentally.
Yep.
Pretty quick and easy.
Yeah, and you don't have to bring tools and stuff like the saw I have for this.
No. If you put the wheelbarrow here, maybe most of them fall into that as well if you're lucky.
Yep.
That groove helps quite a lot, keeping the branches in place when you do this.
Yeah, it's a bit wobbly in the beginning, but
Yeah, they are a bit long.
yeah.
If that's a problem, you can always cut them in half before you start.
Yeah. And also it's a bit it's a new angle of cutting and standing, and
If you're not used to it, of course, it's a new technique to learn. But you pick it up pretty quickly.
yeah.
A couple of hours and you are well into it, I'd say. Another reason I didn't really talk about before why you don't want to chop on a block that's too high is the angle of the cut.
Yeah.
Because you want to hold the branch on an angle like that so you don't cut straight into the side of the branch. If you try and cut a branch chopping into it straight like that, then it will be really difficult to sever the fibers. So you want to have about a 45-degree angle when you do that. Let's demonstrate the differences. If I just lay it flat on the block and try to cut it there.
Yep.
Not so easy.
Nope.
Actually, you hit it with the heel there, so you got a point into it, so it cracked a bit. When I'm doing it now, I'm actually cutting at an angle. That's not efficient, but if you angle it to about the 45-degree angle, it works better. If you don't cut straight into a branch, that is.
Yeah.
Try it again.
Yeah.
Nope.
Doesn't work.
Works better. Probably easier if you hold it yourself.
Yeah. And also chop it when it's outside of the groove.
Yeah, don't really do much work then. Ideally you want to hit more or less right at the edge or just inside of it. If you cut outside, you don't use the force in the blow, and if you cut too high up, it can snap and come flying upwards towards your face.
I noticed that. It was exciting.
Yeah, that was fun. That's a perfect hit.
Yeah, I'm starting to get a little bit used to this.
Yes, it doesn't
Weird
take
movement.
long to get the hang of it. You just need to know that you can do this at all.
Yeah.
This is starting to get a bit
It's a bit big. So,
on the verge of too big for this. Depends on how used you are to it and what weight you have.
yeah.
You could have a slightly heavier head than this. Then it would be easy to chop those things.
How about this firewood? How long do you have to dry it? And wait
Well,
for
I guess it dries quicker than regular firewood logs, since it's small stuff. But I usually just put it in the same pile as the rest of my firewood. I try to process it in the spring, so it has the entire summer to dry before I put it into the shed in the autumn. I don't really have any numbers for that.
All right. Yeah.
The smaller they are, the quicker they dry.
Would you like to show us how it's done?
Well, I thought you did a pretty good job actually.
Thank you.
As I said, it's not a difficult technique, you just have to be aware that you can actually do this. And then you don't have to throw all these small branches and stuff you clear out from your homestead onto a brush pile and burn it for no use. You can actually make usable firewood of it.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a wood burning stove inside for cooking in the winter, then you want this small stuff anyway. And you can also use it to start the fires in your main fireplace. Nobody only uses big fire logs. You have to have some small stuff and some kindling when you start anyway.
Yeah.
I got some sort of obnoxious comment on one of my previous videos when I did this. That guy said where he came from, this wasn't firewood, it was sticks. And my response to that is, yeah, don't sticks burn as well where you come from? Because they do where I come from. And you need the small stuff as well. This is pretty nice and quick work. Couple of hours and you have a big pile of stove wood.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Totally usable instead of just waste from the garden.
Super. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Have fun with your new axe knowledge.
Yes. Let's take take care of the other ones. Knappen, men lite utanför. Nu börjar den sätta sig i kudden istället. Anpassa efter tjockleken på pinnen också, hur hårt man tar i för att den fastnar i. Så den kan börja bli lite stoggig.
Den blir ju lite lösare här när man har huggit ett tag.
Sen att den är blöt.